All right, let's talk Pittsburgh Steelers coming off a Week 1 victory. Good to be 1-0 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but there are definitely a lot of things to improve on. And to that end, the Steelers coaching staff, they're going all in on an exciting, underrated rookie who looks to be a future star for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We got an exciting update there for this awesome move the Steelers believe they have pulled off. But first, I'm Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, the Pittsburgh Steelers, when they selected Yahya Black in the 5th round, a lot of people viewed it as a good, solid addition, nothing special. And of course, as training camp and preseason progressed, Black emerged as a legitimate find of the draft, potentially making all kind of plays. We've done a lot of film reviews all through preseason when it came to this young defensive lineman. A lot of eyes were on Derek Harmon. There's a lot of attention on Sawyer. In fact, there was attention on the veterans too, namely Hayward. There was some TJ Watt drama. But this young defensive lineman kind of slid under the radar and did a great job all offseason and has gone off to a great start. His Week 1 performance was really, really good. We did a film review breaking that down. If you haven't seen it yet, we highly recommend you check it out. It's on our channel. But it looks like the Steelers coaching staff believe that Black has earned more playing time and they're going to give it to him. Let's pull up this tweet right here for this latest update. This is courtesy of Nick Farabaugh. So he has 2 posts here. I'll start with the first one, which says, Terrell Austin says he expects Yahya Black to take on a bigger role this week against the Seahawks. Big game for both teams. Austin said that when it's all said and done, he thinks Black will be someone who can play up and down the line from nose tackle to 4-eye. For anyone who's unfamiliar, a 4-eye is head up slightly inside the offensive tackle, so a 3-4 defensive tackle, 3-4 defensive end, how you want to think about that. But the team has him at 4-eye for now, so it's very clear that Austin and the entire Steelers coaching staff believe Black is special, right? Obviously, we saw some good things in the preseason, did a lot of good things against the New York Jets, and now when you look at what the Steelers are doing, giving him more opportunities, and they view him as a guy who can play nose tackle or 4-eye, either side of the defensive line. He is going to be a key piece of this team the rest of the year and going forward for years to come. A lot of concerns about Keanu Benton. Didn't do so hot against the New York Jets. Obviously, anyone who watched the game can certainly attest to that. And it looks like this young defensive tackle, not named Derek Harmon, as Harmon recovers from injury, is quickly rising up the depth chart and becoming a big-time stud, a big-time find. I mean, this is the time of the year, now that the regular season has started, that we're seeing the true steals emerge. And we like talking about steals and draft steals on this channel. Everybody does. And we look for data and we look for points during the offseason, during mini camps, OTAs, then training camp, and then preseason. And Black was one of those guys every step of the way was doing good things. Rookie mini camps, OTAs, obviously pads weren't coming on, so it was limited action, but there was some high praise for Black, even as bigger names got the attention. And then once the pads came on, and certainly during the preseason, he did extremely well, earned his spot to get some repetitions in the regular season, and did a really good job with them against the New York Jets. He is clearly emerging. I think it's Steelers can officially say they made one of the biggest steals of the entire draft in Yahya Black. What a find. But it's not just a reaction to this game. That's what's really important here. If you go back a couple days, and this is a courtesy of Steelers Depot here. I'm going to try and lean away here. I had to make the text take up the bigger screen because Steelers Depot, they do good stuff, but boy, their text just does not look good when you try and pull it off their website. This was from a report they actually posted before the game. Yahya Black could play a significant role in his Steelers debut. He obviously did, with starter Derek Harmon already being ruled out. For weeks, we have ruled that he looks like a steal as just a 5th-round pick. While they might have to find out sooner than they hoped, DC Terrell Austin sees a lot of potential in Big Sexy. I think he's had some early success because he's a huge individual and he's strong and he uses his hands, Austin said of Black via the Steelers media department. When you're an interior type of guy that has that size and length, when you use your hands and you're powerful, you can get rid of blocks, spin off blocks, and it makes yourself available to make plays. A 5th-round pick out of Iowa, Yahya Black looks like a Steelers defensive lineman. He certainly brings the right attitude, and like Keanu Benton before him, they hope to unearth more of the tools that he showed in college. All right, so obviously this was before the game. Now, after the game, they're like, all right, man, you've earned the reps. You've earned the opportunities. It's very clear the Steelers think that Yahya Black has a great opportunity in front of him to have a good career and really help the Steelers win now, which obviously with Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback, they are certainly in win now mode. So right now, I think it's become abundantly clear that the Steelers believe they've got a special player emerging. Like, look, we talk about the media said this, whether it's us or other channels or just people that follow the Steelers have said Yahya Black looks like a steal. I think now we can say it's officially been confirmed. All right, Steelers fans, before we go into further, and we got some more stuff to dig into, first, in the comment section below, we're talking potential steals here. We're talking about Yahya Black as being one of those guys. Who, in your opinion, is the greatest steal in Pittsburgh Steelers history, right? Who was the biggest draft steal? A guy who was a late round guy, undrafted guy, whatever it may be, came in and just took over, did a lot of great things. You could go a lot of different directions with this, offense, defense, but give us the guy that you think was the greatest draft steal in Pittsburgh Steelers history. Put him in the comment section below. All right, what's very interesting, I want to talk about this just briefly, and I don't want to spend too much time on it, is this was his Yahya Black's draft profile. And this was just, I want to just go over, because I think it's really important to go back really briefly and touch on what he was rated at coming out of school. And you can see here a lot of the attributes that he was described: massive nose tackle with high-end traits, Black's run plugging, can run hot and cold as he fails to anchor with flat feet, blah, 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 blah. Lacks snap quickness and range. He's much more space eater than playmaker. The size and traits will be coveted, but Black lacks rush and is a little inconsistent at controlling the point. He might have a ceiling as a rotational big man, right? So there's a lot of negativity when it came to Black coming out of college, right? He was rated, you can see at the top of the screen there, a 5th to 6th round guy. And he exceeded it, right? Basically, he was drafted because, hey, listen, he was big and strong and had good measurables, right? A lot of people didn't view him as a guy who could play in the National Football League based on what he put on the tape. But somehow it just clicked. Whether it's the Steelers coaching, Austin, his defensive staff, or whatever it may be, the Steelers organization, it just clicked from Yahya Black. And that's something that happens just not uncommon in the National Football League. There are some guys that with the college coaches they have and the programs they're in, and I'm not crapping on Iowa here, it just doesn't work for whatever reason. The player doesn't click. He's got all the great physical tools. He has moments and flashes, but that coaching staff, the teammates around him, it just doesn't work. He doesn't look good on tape, but then he gets to the NFL and he's a heck of a football player. That's clearly what's happened with Yahya Black, and it's a phenomenal pickup by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Look, I don't know if they saw this coming or not. They selected him in the 5th round, so they kind of rated him exactly where everyone else did. But listen, they're the guys that pulled the trigger. A lot of people didn't even have Yahya Black as a draftable guy because of his tape. Give the Steelers credit. They liked enough of what he saw with his measurables to select him in the 5th round, and it's paying big dividends. But I also want to talk about something else I think is really important. I'm going to pull up something that's much hated to use Pittsburgh Steelers fans right here, and this is Yahya Black's PFF page, right? And I've been and this channel has been, Saturday Morning Inspection, SMI, has been a big PFF channel. We like PFF, we're big fans of what they do. But they get so many things wrong. And this is the thing that's really frustrating me, since I actually broke down the film, and we actually did a film review, a deep dive of Yahya Black at his first game. And you look at his grades there, they said he graded out a 44.9. I mean, that's failing. That's terrible. His run defense grade was 47. His tackling grade was 26. His pass rush grade was 55. I mean, bad across the board. And I was a little surprised by that, especially his tackling grade. And he said he missed a couple tackles specifically, and that very high miss percentage, that'll drag everything down. One of the things that I thought was very interesting is that one of the plays they rated as a missed tackle, and we talked about it in the film review, was that he was a 4-eye. He was on the offensive tackle. He had the B gap. He held his gap. He did his job perfectly. The nose guard bit and got blown off the football. Black fought off the block. Well, after holding his gap, it's an inside run, 2 gaps away from him. He fights off his block after doing his job, works inside to try and make the tackle, tries to lay out, but gets caught in the pancake on Benton, and he gets caught and falls on the ground, right? No fault of his, right? He probably makes the play. He probably saves it for being a touchdown, which is what it ended up being for the New York Jets. But it wasn't his fault. It was clearly Benton's fault. PFF graded him horrifically for that play. They said he did a terrible job. I watched the film and I said, that's an A+. He did his job, his assignment really well, got rid of the block, and had a chance to make the play. If it weren't for his teammate doing terribly, he may have made the play, may have saved a touchdown. That should have been an A+. Maybe you graded just an A instead of an A+, because he didn't actually make the play. But PFF graded him essentially an F, a 0, basically, when it's all said and done for that play. And that's a real problem with Pro Football Focus. I think what they've started to do, they didn't always used to be this way, but they've gotten more and more like this, where they have clear favorites. They have clear stylistic favorites. And I don't mean they like Pittsburgh, or they hate Pittsburgh, or they like a certain player, they hate a certain player. They like certain styles, right? If you're a big physical, you kind of just do your job and just a nasty interior player, you're going to grade horribly, right? If you're an interior player that has a pretty set of swim moves and spin moves and all this kind of stuff, and really don't do your job and just kind of do your own thing, you're going to grade outstanding. And I think that's a real problem with PFF. I don't think they're terrible. I don't think you should disregard them completely, but it's been a flawed metric so far for basically the past year and a half or so. And I think Steelers fans, if you saw us talk about, and other people talk about Yahya Black, and hear Terrell Austin saying, we need to give more playing time, you look at his PFF grade and you're like, what the heck is that? I don't think it has anything to do with Black. It is a PFF thing. Black played a whole lot better than what we saw here on this grade. All right, but let's get into the matchup this week, and I think it's very interesting. So just to wrap up here, let's talk about the Steelers, of course, the Seattle Seahawks. This is per ESPN. So the matchup predictor, that's ESPN Analytics. The Steelers are 61.2% chance to win. Seattle is a 38.5, slight percentage chance there for a tie. So the Steelers are not a super heavy favorite, but they're a pretty solid favorite. When you get into the odds, it's very interesting. It opened up Pittsburgh Steelers minus 2.5, which for being a home team, I think a lot of people viewed that as basically a tiny advantage for Pittsburgh. Steelers have a good home field advantage. Good home field advantage is usually worth 3 points in sports books. So a lot of people said, all right, well, that's 3 points. So they view the Seattle Seahawks as basically being a half point better roster-wise than the Steelers. That has shifted, doing some of the betting markets, a point in the Pittsburgh Steelers direction, while the over-under has actually dropped a little bit. So I think what has happened here is the Pittsburgh Steelers and the sports books, the money, the gambling at this point, the dollars have flowed into Pittsburgh's on Pittsburgh's side, mainly on the back of the Steelers defense, holding the Seattle Seahawks to fewer points than initially projected. Not huge numbers, but it is not an insignificant shift. When you talk about a point and a half without any drastic injury updates or anything like that, that's pretty significant. And I think that's something to keep an eye on. Clearly, there's some more money flowing behind Pittsburgh. Doesn't mean they'll win. No, of course not. There's a lot of things that could happen. But I do think this is an interesting data point for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And look, it's a big game for both teams, right? It's one of those things where the Seattle Seahawks, of course, disappointing finish to week 1. Now the San Francisco 49ers, their division rival, is just devastated with injuries. That's a tough loss. They're 0-1 against a rival that's now going to lose probably a handful of games because of all the injuries they have. Look, the Steelers got it done. They found a way to win. But look, the New York Jets, I don't think anyone thinks they're going to be a great football team. I think they may be better than people think. But I don't think anyone looks at the Jets and say, oh yeah, this is a Super Bowl contending team. And it was a back and forth struggle. And look, the NFL's like that sometimes, but it wasn't like wow, the Steelers team is rocking and rolling. This is an opportunity for both squads. The Seahawks don't want to fall to 0-2. If they fall 0-2, especially in a division like that, things could, anytime you fall to 0-2, there are problems. Steelers, they kind of want to send a message and say, listen, we can beat teams. We can be a consistent winner. We can kind of get ahead of the pack early. I think Aaron Rodgers is looking for obviously a good quality home opener to get momentum going, get the juice going. This is a big game for the Pittsburgh Steelers and a big game for their defensive front. The Seattle Seahawks, if you look at the strength of their team, it is their offensive line led by young offensive lineman, rookie offensive lineman Gray Zabel. They're much better up front than people think. They've got some playmakers on the outside, but they live and die by their offensive front. It's going to be a big day for Yahya Black. And listen, you can see why Terrell Austin really wants to give him more playing time. Black has earned it, and it's a matchup where they're going to need all hands on deck. I'm excited to see what the Steelers do this weekend. I'm excited to see what Yahya Black specifically does this weekend. But regardless, I think we can all agree at this point that the Pittsburgh Steelers have officially pulled off by selecting Yahya Black and developing him and giving the opportunities to succeed. They have officially pulled off one of the steals of this entire season.